What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video, I'll be talking about how to get into soloing endgame content. If you want the Spark Notes version, then the answer is just start. Seriously though, that's all you gotta do. Just jump into some piece of content solo and try and beat it. But let me elaborate, since some people on my stream were asking where they should start or how they should start. And I figured now would be a good time to make this video because I'm about to embark on a similar journey with Monster Hunter. So some of this will be talking about what I did in Destiny to be able to solo basically everything in the game, and others will be what I am planning to do to become a solo expert in a new game. But the other point I want to make before we dive in is this is not a how-to guide on how to beat endgame content solo. I made a video about a year and a half ago talking about learning enemy spawn points and ad triggers and things like that, and those points all still applied to today, so if you want to know how to actually beat stuff, go watch that. I will link it in the description. Anyways, onto the video. So what I did to learn how to solo content is what I sort of mentioned off the jump. I just started. I hopped into a high level Nightfall and just practiced and attempted to beat it. I can't remember what they called Master Nightfalls back then, but I know the first one I ever beat solo was Lake of Shadows. I had watched Esoteric's video of him doing it with Controverse Warlock, and I basically tried to mimic what he did. Obviously, I was far less proficient, but that's to be expected because I was new. This was back in the Shadowkeep days when champions had just been introduced. Anyways, after many attempts, I finally beat it. And then I tried my hand at other Master Nightfalls like a Garden World. And I also tried soloing dungeons like Shattered Throne and Pit of Heresy, eventually overcoming those challenges as well. I remember my first time trying to solo Shattered Throne. The Ogre boss took me way longer than the final boss. It probably took me about 5 hours in total just on that Ogre boss. So if you've never solo flawlessed anything, don't worry about the flawless part. Just keep trying to solo it at first. Who cares if you die? Every death teaches you something. This is how you learn. I've spoken about it before and even made 1 or 2 videos showing my death dodges of GM Nightfalls, but you never see the deaths on YouTube for the most part. But every time you die, you learn what not to do. So let's bring this over to Monster Hunter. I recently played the beta and was trying to beat each monster solo. Dashaguma kept killing me with his one attack. I could block every other attack, but the one attack it does, it rips up the ground and I can't block it with my weapon. So I have to dodge it. So after a few times dying to the same thing, I knew I had to refine my strategy. Same with solo Lightblade GM. The barrier knights in boss room were my biggest hurdle. So I had to find a strat that would let me melt their shields very quickly while I was still moving around the battlefield avoiding the boss. Like I said, with every death you learn something. But I wouldn't jump into the deep end with a solo GM right off the start. I would start small, which again is what I did. When GMs released, I never attempted them solo. Like I said, I started with lesser Nightfalls. And then the best thing happened for me in Destiny. In Beyond Light, Lost Sectors were introduced, and now I can blaze through any Lost Sector in like 3 minutes or less, but back then I was running them over and over trying to improve on my times and refine my strats. It was just a personal challenge and something I really enjoyed doing. And that is another aspect to it. If you absolutely hate running stuff solo, then don't even bother. I have a friend who hates to play games by himself. He likes to just play whatever the boys are playing, and that's completely fine. Everyone enjoys different things. Me personally, I loved playing solo. I loved the added challenge that it brought, and how if something went wrong, it was completely my fault. And I had an internal desire to want to get better and improve. Some 5,000 hour players are way worse than like 1,000 hour players, just because they may not ever push themselves to get better. And again, that's fine. Some people may just want to get on and hang with their friends, some may just want to farm loot as efficiently as possible, and running content solo is undoubtedly more inefficient than in a fire team. So again, if you have limited time and don't want to waste that precious time dying over and over in a Nightfall or dungeon or something, and coming away from a 4-hour play session with 0 loot and only experience to show for it, that's totally fine. Not everyone has to be into the same things. But obviously this video is geared towards those in my audience who want to solo stuff but don't really know where to start. So I would definitely recommend starting in solo Lost Sectors. They are very quick, so you don't really have to worry about ammo. I run double special in them lots and I'm always fine for ammo. As you run them, you will get more familiar with using cover, champion AI, and when their shields go up, or how to keep overloads stunned, or how to retreat from an unstoppable or bait it. These are things that I just intrinsically know now, but I once had to learn, and I learned that from solo Lost Sectors. And they have 2 difficulty options, so start with the easier difficulty. These ones have less champions and usually 1 less negative modifier. Then move up to the harder version. Then once you're proficient in that, you probably have some good skill. In my opinion, Lost Sectors are the best starter content for solo players that there is. There's no mechanics like in a dungeon, and you are under light, so you do have to play safely. Once you are tearing through all the Lost Sectors in the game, then I would go up to GMs. But not all GMs are created equal. This season we have Insight Terminus and Warden of Nothing, 2 amazing beginner GMs, especially Insight Terminus. I can beat it in around 20 minutes solo, but again, time doesn't really matter, it's the experience that matters. So like I said, once you're comfortable with solo Lost Sectors, move up to easy GMs. You probably won't beat it on your first attempt, and that is totally fine. Hell, it's normal. I do this shit for a living and I often don't beat it on my first try. So then when you get used to easier GMs, then push yourself into the harder GMs, or use different builds. Back in the day, just soloing the GM at all was a massive accomplishment and would get crazy views on YouTube. But admittedly, they are much easier today, so now the way to get views is to do some off-meta stuff or a speedrun. I like off-meta personally. I know I could use certain builds and smoke a GM, but I like to try to show off a build when I do it. So if you get to the point where you are consistently beating them with your best meta build, now start trying new and unique playstyles. What is great about this is it again teaches you different things. Sure, you can sit back with Bleak Watchers and a Wish Ender and beat any GM, but to me, that would get boring quickly. So try and think what plays well to the certain GM and then try it out. Like I said, you will learn so many different things from trying unique playstyles. But this is more advanced. Only do this once you are already proficient at the basics. If you're just wanting to get into soloing, like I said, start with Lost Sectors and use what you are most comfortable with. My first few solo dungeons and solo exotic missions and stuff, I was crutching Invis Hunter. It was a get out of jail free card, which I needed at the time because I didn't understand enemy manipulation yet. But how can you learn it? Again, by doing it and practicing. But Invis allows you to practice, but with a safety net. And eventually you will learn enough that you won't need that safety net anymore. And that is when you take off Invis and then use some different builds. But again, don't be ashamed if you have to run Invis or whatever build you rely on as a crutch. Use that crutch until you can run. So for me, with switching to Monster Hunter, here's what my progression will probably look like. First is just getting comfortable with a weapon. So in Destiny, that would be your crutch build. I played maybe 10 hours in the beta, so I am still misclicking and don't know all my weapon combos. So if you're like that in Destiny, then I would hold off on any solo content. You have to be able to control your character first, but eventually it will be second nature. So while I am going through the growing pains of just learning my weapons moveset, I will strictly be hunting in a pack. No solo content for me for probably the first 60 hours or so, as I need to become proficient with my weapon and how the game works. But once you are there and comfortable, then you can push yourself. So maybe I will go out and hunt a monster solo. I am comfortable with my weapon, so I don't need to focus on that at all, which means I can focus on the enemy's movesets. So then, after much trial and error, I will learn one boss's mechanics and know how to dodge or parry all of its attacks, and then be able to recognize tells and know what's coming. Destiny is also like this. I always talk about add priority. What enemy has the greatest chance to kill me? You won't know this right away, but as you play and practice, you will learn. For instance, most champions are not actually the priority, the adds around them are. So you want to deal with them first so that you can easily focus on the champion when it's stunned. In Monster Hunter, this will be a little different. The monster is obviously the priority, but what I will have to learn is when to attack and when not to, and all the monsters are different. But once you learn it for one, then you can learn it for the next and so on. And when you know when to attack, you can start playing more aggressively and know when to back off, just like the best players in Destiny. I'm often at red bar health a lot in PvE, but I know what I can survive and what I can't. And I know when I have to back off or when I can keep playing aggressively. And that all comes with experience from years of practice. When I write this all down and say it aloud, it all seems pretty obvious. So I hope this video brought something to the table. It all boils down to just play and push yourself a little further every play session and soon you will be great. But it is literally true. You make these incremental steps and improvements and 2 years from now you are watching footage from 2 years ago thinking, God damn, I used to suck. But that's how it goes. We all start somewhere. But if you never push yourself, you will surely remain stagnant and never improve. So yeah, ultimately I will end this video with how I started it and say just start and you will naturally progress over time as long as you keep at it. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you found the video helpful, then leave it a like. Another thing I want to add is the more you practice and improve, the funner it becomes. The start will feel really crappy, but it's so satisfying when you do finally beat something that you never thought you would. For me, it was that ogre boss in Shattered Throne, and then I never looked back. And then, as I got better and better, it became more and more fun. Anyways, that's it. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Hey, if you're still here, then thanks so much for watching to the end. If you like what I do and you want to support me further, then consider becoming a channel member. You'll get your name featured on the end screen, custom badges, and other cool rewards. You can also join my community Discord if that interests you, and if you want to see me stream, be sure to follow me on Twitch at itstizzle7 where I stream semi-regularly. Those are linked in the description. Anyways, that's enough self-promotion. Thanks for watching. Take care.